What if kindness, instead of making you stronger, is quietly draining you? Have you ever felt like your patience is being mistaken for weakness, leaving you ignored? And when does giving others the benefit of the doubt turn into a trap that keeps you stuck in toxic places you've already outgrown? These are the questions that guide us today. We've all been taught to be kind, patient, and to always give others the benefit of the doubt. These values are noble, they shape us into thoughtful, empathetic people. But there comes a time when those very traits meant to uplift begin to wear us down. The truth is, kindness can become a self-erasure if we're not careful. When patience starts to feel like being invisible, and when giving others the benefit of the doubt becomes nothing more than an excuse for staying stuck in situations that drain us, it's time to reassess. And that's where we find ourselves now. At some point in your life, if you want peace, if you want growth, if you want to stop feeling exhausted by everyone else's needs, you will have to make a tough decision. A decision that's not easy but necessary. You'll have to stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve your time. You'll need to stop overgiving and stop negotiating your worth with those who are unqualified to measure it. You'll have to learn to say no. But here's the catch. Saying no isn't about bitterness, and it's not about hatred. It's about clarity. It's about having the courage to say no with a quiet, unshakable conviction. The voice of someone who knows their worth and will no longer allow anything to disturb their peace. This is where true ruthlessness comes in. You see, ruthlessness isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. It's a discipline that protects your time, your mind, and your energy from being consumed by those who don't deserve it. Because life will not wait for you to learn boundaries. It won't slow down for you to figure out how to stop being taken advantage of. Life will keep moving whether you're ready or not. If you don't rise to meet it with strength and emotional clarity, life will swallow you whole. So today, let's dive deep into what ruthlessness truly means. Not as a form of cruelty, but as the most compassionate act you can do for yourself. And why learning this skill might just be the key to reclaiming your peace. As we continue, we'll explore why ruthlessness is the missing piece for so many people who are ready to break free and take back control of their lives. You were once the person who shrank back, the one who allowed others to feel taller, more important, by giving up a piece of yourself. But here's the truth. Protecting your peace will often look like cruelty to those who have benefited from your lack of it. We live in a world that's conditioned us to see silence as aggression, boundaries as selfishness, and walking away as betrayal. But the reality is far simpler and far more powerful. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to step back. Not to hurt others, but to stop hurting yourself. You're not a villain for saying enough. You're not wrong for choosing your own well-being over someone else's comfort. And you're definitely not cruel for refusing to allow yourself to be drained just so others can stay comfortable. True self-respect isn't loud. It doesn't seek validation or permission. Self-respect doesn't explain itself endlessly. It simply draws the line and stands firm. And when that happens, when you finally stop overextending, when you stop apologizing for your needs, when you stop trying to win the approval of people who never truly valued you in the first place, people will call you ruthless. Let them. Because in those moments when you stop trying to please you, begin to heal. It's this inner shift that transforms how you show up in every aspect of your life. You'll begin to choose calm over chaos, distance over drama, and self-worth over pleasing others. That's what it means to become someone who no longer negotiates their value. Someone who realizes that being whole is far more important than being liked. If you've ever felt guilty for drawing a boundary, I want you to remember this. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. You are not heartless for walking away from things or people that drain you. What you're doing is finally giving yourself the respect you spent years trying to earn from people who couldn't see your worth. And that, my friend, is what ruthlessness truly is. It's not destruction, it's protection. And this brings us to the second part of learning how to protect yourself. Stop overgiving. No one is entitled to your energy, and yet we often find ourselves being the ones who always show up, always check in, always make the plans, always forgive too soon, and always give too much. It's the exhaustion of holding space for people who never think to do the same for you. It's the quiet weariness that slowly starts to feel normal. And the worst part, you start to believe that this is who you are. You believe your role is to be the giver, the one who is always available, always ready, even when it's draining your spirit. But here's the truth that no one tells you. Overgiving is not generosity. It's self-abandonment in disguise. True generosity comes from overflow, not from depletion. As we move forward, let's dive deeper into the subtle yet powerful art of guarding your energy so you can reclaim your peace in your life. As we've explored the importance of not overgiving and reclaiming your energy, let's now dive into how you can truly protect yourself with boundaries and why doing so is not just a necessity, but a form of self-respect. When you give out of guilt, fear, or in the hope that someone will finally see your worth, it stops being a gift. It transforms into a transaction you never signed up for, one where the return is always disappointment. The longer you stay in that cycle, the more invisible you become, not because others can't see you, but because you've placed yourself in the background so many times that you forget what it feels like to stand in the center of your own life. This is where the Stoics had it right. They placed great value on guarding your inner life because your attention, your emotional presence, and your energy, they are sacred. The people around you should treat them as such. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your exhaustion. You don't need to apologize for needing space. If someone is constantly taking from you without ever replenishing or even noticing, then what you're in is not a relationship. It's a performance. And in this performance, the role you're playing, the caretaker, the fixer, the peacemaker, will slowly destroy you if you don't step off that stage. Stop believing that your worth is tied to how much you endure for others. Don't confuse being needed with being loved. Your job is not to carry what others refuse to hold themselves. And here's the hard truth. If they leave when you stop overgiving, they were never truly there for you. They were only there for what you provided, and you have every right to pull back. You have every right to choose yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a self-respecting way. Because when you stop overgiving, you start healing. You begin to reclaim your energy, your time, and your voice. It's when you make this shift that real relationships, those built on mutual respect, not silent sacrifice, begin to form. So take a moment to ask yourself, who takes from you without noticing? Who leaves you drained rather than inspired? And most importantly, who would still remain if you stopped overgiving? Now let's talk about boundaries. Think about how the ocean draws its shores. The ocean doesn't explain where it ends. It doesn't announce its retreat, nor does it apologize for the ebb and flow of the tide. It simply knows where to stop, and that knowing shapes everything around it. A boundary should be the same way. Not a wall built out of anger, not a weapon to punish, but a calm, deliberate line that says, "This is where I end." As we've explored how boundaries shape our relationships and protect our peace, let's now dive into the deeper, often misunderstood aspects of boundaries and how we've been conditioned to view them as something uncomfortable or even cruel. This is where your journey begins. But for many of us, boundaries feel heavy, awkward, and even cruel. Why? Because we've been taught to equate love with sacrifice, connection with constant availability, and kindness with compliance. We've been raised to believe that being nice means always saying yes, always making room, always being open. But this kind of openness without balance becomes an invitation for others to take, without giving to expect your presence, without offering the respect that it deserves. A true boundary isn't about pushing people away. It's about teaching them how to stay. It's not about creating conflict, but rather about creating clarity. Boundaries are about letting others know what honors you and what doesn't. When someone crosses a boundary, they're not just violating your space. They're testing your self-worth. They want to see what you'll tolerate, what you'll excuse, and what you'll simply explain away. And if you let it slide once they will push again and again, eventually you'll find that you're no longer living your life, you're managing theirs. This is why the Stoics emphasize self-governance. If you don't control what gets your attention, what enters your space, and what drains your energy, you'll spend your entire life reacting rather than choosing. It's like being a coastline that erodes bit by bit, wave by wave, until there's nothing left of substance. Here's what's often misunderstood. The people who truly care for you won't be offended by your boundaries. In fact, they'll be grateful for them. Why? Because boundaries create safety. They create structure. They show that you're self-aware enough to know what you need and brave enough to ask for it. Those who care for you will respect your boundaries because it's a sign of emotional maturity and strength. So the next time someone crosses your line and expects you to simply tolerate it, remember the ocean. The ocean doesn't force, it doesn't shout. It moves with quiet authority and the world adjusts around it. That's how you protect your peace, not by fighting for it, but by defining it. Now let's turn to a particularly dangerous form of overgiving, the kind that comes from a place of fear. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood. Let's dive into this concept further. As we've seen, kindness without boundaries can often lead to frustration and resentment. Now let's explore how failing to set boundaries can cause us to lose our sense of self and respect. When we fail to set clear limits, we disguise our boundaries behind politeness. We allow ourselves to be walked on, hoping that if we remain soft enough, eventually others will see our goodness. But often all it earns us is silence, disrespect, or worse, being forgotten. The harsh truth is, you were not born to be a doormat for other people's comfort. Yet many of us fall into this trap thinking that if we are just nice enough, patient enough, or agreeable enough, others will finally treat us with the care and respect we deserve. But here's the reality. When your kindness is unconditional, but your standards are invisible, you're teaching others that your needs don't matter. You're showing them that your time isn't valuable, that your voice can be ignored. Boundaries are not the opposite of kindness. They are the foundation of it. Without boundaries, your kindness becomes noise. It becomes background music in someone else's life, pleasant but forgettable. And no one remembers the song that always plays. They remember the one that surprises them, the one that demands attention, the one that has presence. Stoic philosophy teaches us to live with intention, not action, driven solely by the need for approval. When you say yes while your heart is screaming, no, that's not virtue. That's self-neglect. And when you call it kindness, you're making your own betrayal look noble. You don't need to be cruel to protect yourself, but you do need to be clear. The more silent you are about your limits, the louder the world becomes in disrespecting them. People will assume you're okay with whatever you don't challenge. And the longer you let that happen, the more invisible you become, not just to others, but to yourself as well. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming real. It means letting your no carry as much weight as your yes. It means giving your kindness to those who value it, not those who expect it as a guarantee. So here's the challenge. Don't confuse being liked with being safe. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do for yourself is to be endlessly nice. Now that we understand the importance of boundaries and the risks of unchecked kindness, let's talk about how to begin setting boundaries with confidence, not fear. As we've explored the importance of setting boundaries and protecting our peace, let's dive into another crucial aspect, the difference between self-sacrifice and self-respect. Be honest, be kind, but be someone who knows where kindness ends and self-respect begins. Self-sacrifice isn't always noble. In fact, sometimes it's just fear in disguise. There's a dangerous myth we're taught that the more we give up for others, the more valuable we become. We're told that love means putting ourselves last, that being good means being selfless to the point of exhaustion. But here's the hard truth. Not all sacrifice is noble. Sometimes self-sacrifice is just fear hiding behind a smile. It's the fear of not being enough, the fear of being left behind, the fear that if we stop giving people, we'll stop caring about us. And so we stay in friendships that drain us, in relationships where we carry all the emotional weight alone, and in jobs that quietly erase our identity. We stay not because we're strong, but because we're afraid of what it means to walk away. We tell ourselves we're being mature, loyal, compassionate, but deep down we know the truth. We're afraid. Afraid that if we put ourselves first, we'll lose everything. But ask yourself, what are you really losing when you keep sacrificing your own needs for others? Your peace, your health, your identity? Because over time, those small sacrifices pile up. And eventually you wake up and realize you've built a life around pleasing people who wouldn't even flinch if you disappeared. That's not love. That's survival. And you weren't born just to survive. The Stoics remind us to live in accordance with nature. And your nature is not to constantly pour from an empty cup. Your nature is to live with reason, with clarity, and with intention. You can still love others deeply and love yourself. You can care for others and protect your boundaries. These things aren't opposites, they're partners. You don't become more worthy by disappearing into someone else's life. You become worthy by showing up fully in your own. So the next time you feel the urge to give pause, ask yourself, am I giving from a place of love or from a place of fear? Am I acting out of integrity or insecurity? And most importantly, would I still do this if I believe my worth didn't depend on it? Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet refusal to betray yourself again. It's the moment you say, no, not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself, about your limits, and about the life you're building. Now that we've explored the deep connection between boundaries, self-sacrifice, and self-respect, let's move forward and discuss how to begin practicing this self-awareness every day. As we've seen, setting boundaries and understanding self-sacrifice are crucial to living with intention. Now let's explore the role time plays in how we value ourselves and others. Self-sacrifice can be beautiful when it's chosen freely, but when it becomes your identity, when it's the only language you know, it stops being love and begins to feel like a prison. You are allowed to leave that prison. You are allowed to walk out, lock the door behind you, and say, from now on, I choose me. If they waste your time, they don't deserve your presence. Time is the only currency you can't earn back. Every second you spend is a piece of your life you'll never see again. And yet we give it away so easily, whether it's to people who cancel last minute, to conversations that go in circles, to relationships that never grow, or to those who treat our presence as if it's a given. But here's the hard truth. If they waste your time, they are wasting your life. And if they waste your life, they don't deserve a place in it. You might think you're just being patient, that giving second chances is a sign of emotional maturity, that sticking around while someone figures it out is the kind, loyal thing to do. But patience without limits becomes permission. When people realize that you'll always be there no matter how carelessly they treat your time, your plans, or your emotional investment, they stop seeing your time as a gift. Instead, they begin to see it as something that's guaranteed, something they don't need to earn. The Stoics viewed time as sacred, even divine. Seneca once wrote, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it's right to be stingy. Seneca was right. The moments you spend waiting for people who don't value you are moments stolen from your growth, your peace, and your purpose. You see, it's not just about missed appointments or delayed replies. It's about how someone's behavior reflects their priorities. When someone consistently shows up late, avoids meaningful conversations, or flakes out when things get real, they're sending a message loud and clear. They're saying, my time matters more than yours. My comfort matters more than your effort. And here's the question you need to ask yourself. Are you willing to accept that message? Now that we've delved into how time reflects our values, let's explore how to protect it more effectively in our relationships and daily lives. As we've explored the importance of protecting our time and valuing ourselves, let's now delve into a critical aspect of our relationships: silence. Here's where many people get stuck. They confuse forgiveness with access. They believe that being a good person means always being available, always offering their time, their energy, their presence. But what if being a good person also meant being a responsible steward of your own life? What if protecting your time wasn't selfish but sacred? Because here's the reality. You only get this one life. You can't keep letting people borrow pieces of it and return nothing. You can't keep giving hours to people who won't even give you minutes. It's not rude to walk away from time wasters. It's not arrogant to demand presence from those who ask for yours. It's wise, it's necessary, and it's long overdue. So take a moment and look around your life. Who constantly asks for your time but never shows up fully for it? Who drains your energy without ever contributing to your well-being? Who turns every interaction into an obligation instead of a connection? Ask yourself, if I keep giving my time to people who treat it like it's worthless, what does that say about how I value it? You don't need to make a scene. You don't need to explain. You simply need to stop showing up for people who never noticed you were there. Let silence answer where words failed. Let absence speak where presence was ignored. Your time is not just hours on a clock. It's your one chance to become who you were meant to be. Protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. Now let's talk about another powerful tool in your emotional toolkit: silence. If they can't handle your silence, they don't deserve your voice. Silence is often misunderstood. People assume it means distance, disconnection, or even punishment. But in reality, silence is often where truth lives. The kind of truth that doesn't scream to be heard, but simply waits to be recognized. If someone can't sit with your silence, if they demand constant validation, constant access, constant explanation, they're not listening to understand. They're listening to control. And that's not connection, that's entitlement. There's a quiet kind of power in not reacting and choosing not to justify your feelings to someone who never respected them in the first place. It's the power of choosing not to chase clarity from people who thrive on confusion. Your silence isn't avoidance. It's clarity. It's the moment you realize that your peace matters more than being understood by those who are committed to misunderstanding you. We live in a world that overvalues noise. We're pressured to respond quickly, to explain ourselves constantly, to remain emotionally available to everyone, even those who've never earned that kind of access. As we've explored the power of silence and its role in protecting our peace, let's now turn our focus to a crucial realization: the difference between being heard and truly being listened to. The Stoics taught a different lesson. They understood that stillness is strength, that you are not obligated to speak simply because someone demands a reaction, and you are not unkind for choosing presence over performance. Think about how many times you've tried to explain yourself only to be met with deflection, defensiveness, or dismissal. How many times has your honesty been twisted? How often has your vulnerability been used against you? Over time, you begin to realize that words mean nothing to people who aren't truly listening. In those moments, silence becomes your boundary, not because you've given up, but because you've woken up. People who truly care about you will make space for your silence. They will recognize that sometimes stillness is part of healing. They'll understand that not every question needs an immediate answer. That real connection is often found in the pauses, not just the paragraphs. But people who are addicted to control, those who only feel powerful when they're pulling emotional strings, they will panic in your silence. They'll label it as cruel, as immature, as manipulative. Why? Because they can't handle the fact that for once, your energy is no longer theirs to direct. And that's when you'll know your voice was never the problem. It was your willingness to keep speaking into spaces that only echoed back emptiness. So reclaim your silence not as a punishment to others, but as a kindness to yourself. Let it be your sanctuary. Let it be your protection. Let it be the moment you stop pleading to be heard and start listening to your own inner peace. Because when you finally stop explaining yourself to people who don't listen, a beautiful thing happens. You begin to hear yourself more clearly. You begin to realize that your voice is not a tool for convincing. It's a gift won that only the worthy get to receive. Now that we've explored the power of silence and reclaiming your voice, let's look at one of the deepest forms of self-betrayal, living to please everyone but yourself. As we've delved into the cost of living to please others and the importance of reclaiming our voice, let's now take a deeper look at how we silence ourselves and the heavy price we pay for doing so. Your voice was silenced not by force, but by your own fear of disappointing people. And in that silence, you lost yourself. From a young age, we're taught to seek validation, to be the good student, the good child, the good partner, the agreeable one. We shapeshift to earn praise, suppress our feelings to avoid confrontation, and learn to smile when we want to scream, stay when we want to leave, agree when we feel deeply opposed. Little by little, that act becomes more than just an occasional response. It becomes a lifestyle, a habit, a quiet cruelty we inflict upon ourselves, all in the name of being liked. But living for others is not living at all. It's performing. And the cost of that performance is heavy: your truth, your needs, your freedom. The Stoics warned against this very thing. They believed in living in harmony with your true nature. And your nature is not to be a mirror reflecting others' expectations. Your nature is to be whole, to act with virtue, not approval, to speak with clarity, not caution. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." What would happen if you reverse that equation? Here's the thing. People's opinions change constantly. One day they want you to be one thing, and the next day they want you to be someone else. If you build your life on their shifting standards, you'll never stand on solid ground. You'll always be adjusting, apologizing, editing, and erasing, until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back at you. And it's not their fault. It's yours for handing them the pen and asking them to write your story. But here's the good news. You can take the pen back. You can choose discomfort over regret, honesty over performance depth, over approval. It won't be easy. People will call you selfish, cold, distant. They'll ask, what happened to the version of you they liked? The version that made life easier for them. And in those moments, you'll have to stand there calmly and say, I stopped living for everyone but myself. Because the truth is, the people who truly love you will want the real you, not the obedient version. They'll want your honesty, your clarity, your full presence. As we've discussed the importance of reclaiming your voice and choosing yourself, let's now shift to another powerful element of self-respect: curating the people who surround you. Anyone who only loves the edited version of you never loved you at all. Let this be your turning point, not a rebellion, but a return. A return to your values, your voice, your vision. The greatest act of self-respect isn't about saying yes to others. It's about saying yes to yourself. And in doing so, you don't become cruel, you become free. Now let's talk about the people you allow into your life. Curate your circle like your soul depends on it, because it does. You are not just the sum of your thoughts or habits. You are also the sum of the people you allow into your space, the conversations you engage in, the energies you tolerate, the beliefs you absorb. They all shape you in ways you don't always notice, until one day you wake up and realize you're carrying thoughts that aren't yours, stress that isn't yours, values that never belong to you. By then, it has already cost you time, clarity, and peace. That's why curating your circle isn't just about cutting people off. It's about soul preservation. Every time you allow someone with a negative mindset, a selfish agenda, or a chaotic spirit into your life unchecked, you're not just being open-minded, you're inviting disorder into your mental home. You're allowing someone to rearrange your furniture while you're still trying to figure out where everything belongs. And the damage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the slow erosion of your ambition, the subtle dimming of your joy, the silent questioning of your self-worth. You don't need a large circle. You need a clear one. Seneca once said, Associate with people who are likely to improve you, not those who drain you, not those who mock your growth, not those who keep you tethered to the lowest version of yourself because it makes them feel more comfortable. Your soul cannot thrive in a room where you constantly have to shrink to be accepted, and your vision cannot survive in an environment that belittles it. So how do you know who belongs in your circle? Pay attention to how you feel after the interaction. Do you feel seen or judged, uplifted, or quietly dismissed? Do you leave the conversation with more clarity or more confusion? Your body knows. Your spirit knows. As we've discussed the importance of curating your circle and protecting your energy, let's now explore the concept of emotional maturity and the cost of delaying it in our lives. So often we override our own wisdom because we fear being alone. But the truth is, solitude isn't the enemy. Noise is. A life filled with shallow connections, half-hearted friendships, and constant distractions will leave you lonelier than any silence ever could. Curating your circle doesn't mean seeking perfection in others. It means seeking alignment, shared values, mutual respect, and emotional presence. It means being intentional with your time and your access. Access to you is a privilege, not a right. If someone brings chaos into your life, let them carry it elsewhere. If someone's version of support feels like control, let them go. If someone consistently belittles your dreams, your growth, or your transformation, you owe them nothing but distance. You're not arrogant for walking away. You're not cold for being selective. You're being responsible with your energy, your potential, your life. So treat your circle like a sacred garden. Water it with positivity and care, and remove the weeds that drain your spirit. Don't apologize for protecting what you're growing, because who surrounds you shapes you, and your soul deserves better than noise disguised as loyalty. Now let's shift focus and dive into the concept of ruthlessness, not as harshness, but as emotional maturity. Be ruthless because life doesn't wait for you to learn emotional maturity. It won't pause while you figure it out. It won't gently wait while you learn how to set boundaries, how to speak up, how to stop over-apologizing, or how to finally put yourself first. The world keeps moving, and if you don't rise with it, if you don't sharpen your sense of self, if you don't develop the emotional backbone to say no more, you'll be swept into a life shaped by other people's choices instead of your own. That's the cost of emotional immaturity, a life that isn't really yours. Being ruthless doesn't mean being harsh. It means being clear. Ruthlessness, in the Stoic sense, is the unwavering commitment to protect your energy, your time, your values, not out of anger, but out of awareness. It's realizing that you don't have forever. Every year you spend tolerating what drains you is a year lost. Every moment you stay in spaces that stifle you is a moment you could have used to build something better. We talk about emotional growth as if it's optional, as if it's something we can get to eventually. But the reality is every day you delay it, life will hand you reminders through burnout, toxic patterns, and relationships that keep repeating the same painful cycles. As we've discussed the importance of emotional maturity and the courage to protect your energy, let's now look at the deeper truth about why nothing changes if you don't start setting the boundaries you need. You'll wonder why nothing's changing, why people keep crossing your lines, why your voice always feels stuck in your throat. The answer is simple. Life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards clarity, courage, and boundaries. The Stoics believed in acting in accordance with reason, not impulse or emotional chaos. To be ruthless is to cut away what no longer aligns with your reason, your purpose, your truth. It's about stopping the negotiations with parts of your life that are clearly misaligned but feel familiar. And that takes strength, because comfort is seductive, but comfort is not growth. The longer you stay in that comfort zone, the more numb you become to your own needs. Being ruthless means no longer explaining your standards to people who are committed to violating them. It means walking away from relationships that require you to shrink just to survive. It means no longer diluting your dreams to fit into someone else's expectations. It means outgrowing your own excuses, silently, relentlessly. Yes, you'll lose some people along the way. You'll be misunderstood, judged, maybe even called cold. But what's the alternative? A life built on guilt, a mind filled with silent resentment, a soul dimmed by emotional compromise. You don't need to be violent to be powerful. You don't need to be cruel to be clear, but you do need to be unshakable in your standards, especially when the world tries to blur them. So be ruthless with what drains you. Be ruthless with indecision. Be ruthless with patterns that keep you stuck. Not because you're hard-hearted, but because you finally developed the emotional maturity to protect the life you were always meant to live. You don't need to apologize for growing stronger. You just need to stop waiting for permission. There comes a time in every person's life when they stop asking the world for permission and start giving it to themselves. That's what this entire journey has been about. Not cruelty, not indifference, but the quiet, powerful decision to take your life back, one boundary, one choice, one unapologetic no at a time. You've seen what happens when you overgive, when you tolerate, when you keep explaining yourself to people who have no intention of ever truly seeing you. You've felt the exhaustion, the self-doubt, the quiet erosion of your identity. And now you get to rewrite that story. You get to stop playing small in spaces that were never built to hold the fullness of who you are. As we've explored the power of ruthless self-respect and the importance of reclaiming your voice, let's now turn to the deeper meaning of ruthlessness and its connection to love. Ruthlessness, in its truest form, is love. It's love for your time, love for your energy, and love for the person you're becoming, not just the one you've been. It's clarity without cruelty, walking away without resentment, and refusing to stay in roles that require you to abandon yourself. The world doesn't get to define your worth. People's opinions don't get to shape your peace, and your past doesn't get to dictate your future. You do. So as this episode comes to a close, let that truth settle deep into your bones. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to become someone you deeply respect. And that kind of life one, lived with strength, clarity, and emotional maturity, begins the moment you stop making room for what you've already outgrown. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect, to reset, and to reclaim your space. And if you found value in this episode, consider sharing it with someone who might need this reminder too. Subscribe, leave a comment, or simply sit with the silence that follows and let it speak volumes about who you're becoming. Because sometimes the most powerful transformation starts with a quiet decision to never go back.